In a confusing and complex world, isn't it comforting to know that there is simple truth, simple faith, and simple Christianity? The Churches of Christ.
Today I'm going to be talking about when it's scary. When it's scary. How many of us have been really, really scared of something before? Maybe it's spiders or snakes or your mother-in-law. You know, there it is. Okay. Amy, are you here? Is she here? There she is. Okay. Scary. But what's really scary is when we put ourselves in spiritual danger. That's what's really scary in life. And I think sometimes we don't recognize this. We recognize some of the physical dangers in our lives, but we don't recognize some of the spiritual dangers. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. First point I want to talk about is it's scary when people's lives don't look the same at church as they do in public. All right? How many of you have been guilty of that before? I know I have. There was a man by the name of Douglas Cone. He owned a construction company in Tampa, Florida. Okay? And Douglas Cone was worth well over $1 million. Okay? This was a rich businessman. I mean, had it going on. And he had this big mansion in Florida. And he raised his family there. He had several kids there with his wife. And 20 miles on the other side of Tampa, there was another man by the name of Douglas Carlson, or Donald Carlson, rather. He was also a millionaire, living on the opposite side of Tampa. And he also was an extremely wealthy businessman with kids and a wife. And so these individuals lived long lives, and they both died on the exact same day. Both wealthy businessmen in Tampa, all right, 20 miles apart. They died on the exact same day. And so, of course, both of the families of these men are just beside themselves with anguish and are mourning the loss of their father. The ironic thing is that they were mourning the same man. You see, Douglas Cone had created an alias by the name of Donald Carlson, and he was living a double life. So he had one family on one side of Tampa, and he'd spend some time with them, and after a while he'd say, "Honey, I gotta go on business," and he'd tell the kids bye, and he'd go and he'd spend a week on the other side of town with his other family. And until he died, no one found out about it. This went on for 50 years. Now, what an awful, awful life. To be lying to one family and then lying to another, to be trying to say you're committed to one family and not committed to the other. But unfortunately, I think that's a lot of us in our spiritual lives. You know, we spend time with God on Sunday, all right? We spend time with God on Sunday, and we tell Him we love Him on Sunday, and we sing songs expressing our love for God on Sundays. But then on Monday through Saturday, we go back to our second family. Or we may come back the next Sunday and profess our love for Christ again. And we may take the Lord's Supper and we bow our heads and we say, "Jesus, you died for me. I'm committed to you." But then the rest of the week, we're out cheating on Him again with the loves of the world. We cannot be like this. Matthew 6:27 or Matthew 6:24 says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." You can't serve two masters, all right? You can't serve God and then be out drinking on the weekend, all right? You can't, come to the food bank and come to all of these events that we have and profess your love for Christ and then be out seen watching a pornographic film at the movie theaters. You can't say that God is your number one in life and then only come to church on Sunday morning. You see, we have fallen into this trap of being one person here and one person somewhere else, and we have to be one person all the time. There's this app. Now, I don't have it, and I'm probably going to describe it wrong, so the young kids can let you know later. But apparently there's this app that's real famous now called Be Real. All right? Do y'all still use Be Real? Is that something? Okay, I guess y'all aren't real then. Be Real. And apparently how this works is you get a notification from a friend, and you're supposed to as soon as you open the notification, it takes a picture of your surroundings. So it takes a picture of you, but it also on the back side, the camera on that side takes a picture of your surroundings. And so this is a way where you can't just hide behind the camera, selfie, I'm doing great. And then on the other side of the camera, there's a dumpster fire, right? And so a lot of people are doing this. And how many of us know people, or maybe it's been us personally, who may post at church with the family, like we're doing great, right? And then you just had a dog fight in the car right before you got to the church, right? Okay, I've been guilty of it, posting pictures and, like everything's okay, right? But this app, it says you can't be fake. It's going to take a picture of you plus what's going on the other side of your camera. And it's called Be Real. The reason it's called Be Real is because people try to take pictures of only what you want them to see. I'm afraid that if we had to do a Christian Be Real, all right? So if everyone in here had to do a Christian Be Real where they had to take a video of their life at home and outside of church, and then take a video of their life at church, we would see a lot of people not being real. And that's really, really scary. It's scary when people's lives don't look the same at church as they do in public. We have to be the same all the time. What we profess on Sunday morning, we have to act out on Monday morning. We can't be two people. We can't be Douglas Cone and Donald Carlson. Our one love has to be Christ. Number 2, it's a scary thing when a church doesn't hold each other accountable. Turn with me to Galatians chapter 2, verses 11 through 14. It says, but when Cephas, talking about Peter here, when Cephas came to Antioch, this is Paul talking, I opposed him to his face, because he stood condemned. For before certain men came from James, he was eating with the Gentiles. But when they came, he drew back and separated himself, fearing the circumcision party. And the rest of the Jews acted hypocritically along with him, so that even Barnabas was led astray by their hypocrisy. But when I saw that their conduct was not in step with the truth of the gospel, I said to Cephas, before them all, if you, though a Jew, live like a Gentile and not like a Jew, how can you force the Gentiles to live like Jews? All right, so let's look at this passage of Scripture. Here we see Peter. How many of y'all have heard of Peter before? All right, everybody probably has heard of Peter if you've been to church and you've gone to church and read your Bible. Peter is a pillar of the Lord's church. A pillar of the Lord's church. But one thing we know about Peter is he makes mistakes, right? And he makes a mistake right here. How many of us have made a mistake? Wow, man, we got some good people in here. I'm telling you. I'm glad I'm in this building because we got a lot of Jesuses in here, a lot of perfect people. All right, how many of you have needed someone to step in and tell you that you were wrong at some point in time? Everybody. If you answer no to either one of those questions, then you're really proving my point even further. We are human. We make mistakes. All right? We are like Peter in the fact that we make mistakes. And we need people like Paul in our lives when we're doing something that we're not supposed to, that they will step in and help us correct it in a spirit of love and gentleness. Am I wrong for saying this? Do you agree or disagree with this statement right here? I don't want to be a part of a church where I know I can get away with anything and everything. Do you agree with that statement? I don't want to be a part of a church where I know I can get away with anything and everything. I want to be part of a church where they hold me accountable and I can hold others accountable. And that's how we stay true and focused on God's message and God's truth and God's word. Being able to hold each other accountable. I don't want to be a part of a church where I can miss church on a regular basis and nothing's ever said to me. No one reaches out to me. I don't want to be a part of a church where when I do something that's not right or I do something that's shameful in the community, no one comes up to me and holds me accountable. I don't know about you, but I want to know that I have some people that are looking out for me. Now, it may not be what I want to hear at the time or what I like to hear, but I know that those people are going to be looking out for me and holding me accountable. And I know I've got a lot of flaws. I'm probably have 10 people lined up after this lesson. All right, Cade, here's holding you accountable. But it's scary when you get to a point in church where no one can do any wrong. Have we gotten to a point where no one can do any wrong? Think about this question for a second. All right, think about this. Can you see your flaws as well as others can? I can tell you right now, I can't see my flaws as well as my wife can. All right? She's got those pinpointed. No, in all seriousness, sometimes I act like a goofball. But most of the time I act like a goofball, and she has to say, Cade, take the straws out of your mouth in public and stop acting like a walrus, okay? I have a lot of flaws, and she calls me on it, and she keeps me in check. But even in a deeper sense, can we see our flaws as well as others can? So many of you know that I teach history at Austin High School in Decatur, and I coach tennis and football there, and I've been teaching there for 3 years now. And the principal is a man by the name, or we call him Coach Garth. All right, that's our principal at Austin High School. He's this huge guy, 6'4". I mean, big guy, deep voice. And I've been teaching there a while, but me and Coach Garth, we got history far before I started teaching. All right, let's flash back 10 years when I was in his PE class. Okay, he was my PE teacher, and he also just happened to be the boys' head basketball coach. And so we have a history. Now, I remember when I was in 9th grade, I wanted to be on the basketball team so bad. Oh, I wanted to be on the basketball team so bad. Now, Austin's a 7A school. Better yet, they're a basketball school. Okay, so a 7A basketball school. If you're looking at me right now, you're probably thinking, that's not going to work out for you real well, okay? But PE started, and he would roll out the balls, and I knew tryouts were coming up. And so I would be doing all my fancy stuff but between the legs, and I'd be throwing the no-look behind the back passes, and, I'd be shooting it, I'm shooting well, making all my shots. And so when tryouts rolled around, I just knew that I was going to make the team. And can you guess what happened when I tried out? I got cut. Let's flash forward 10 years. And now I'm working for Coach Garth at Austin, and I've been holding this grudge in my heart for these 10 years towards him. And so I finally go up to him, and I look my boss in the eye, and I say, Coach, why did you cut me all those years ago? I had the whole package. I could dribble, pass, shoot. And he said, Cade, you were 4'11", and you couldn't jump over a piece of paper. I didn't want to see that flaw in me. I don't like to see my vertical challenging attributes. I didn't see those flaws. And looking back on it now, if I was the head basketball coach and I had walked in and tried out for myself, I would have cut myself too, right? Probably not going to be a good fit for a 7A high school basketball. But believe it or not, get this, I grew a little bit the next year, and I did play 10th grade. But that 9th grade year, he didn't let me play 10th grade. Let me rephrase that. He moved to the middle school. He wasn't going to let me play. And I still hound him about that today. If you're watching this, take it easy. Don't fire me, please. I need this job. I didn't see any flaws in myself, and I think a lot of us are kind of like that. We don't like to see flaws in ourselves, and that's why we need some people to hold us accountable. I love what Philip said. A couple of weeks ago or a month ago. Go back. He said, "Who has permission to speak in your life? Who has permission to speak in your life?" See, we are so defensive, and we don't like to see flaws in ourselves, and we get offended by that. And so we don't like to let people have permission to tell us stuff, to tell us when we're wrong. But if you read in Proverbs 27, verse 17, it says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." Are we sharpening each other at this church? Or are we, you're okay, you're okay. As long as you don't talk to me about my problems, I won't talk to you about yours. No, we have to be sharpening one another and helping each other stay true and faithful to the Word of God. Now, there are a few problems that I want to address with accountability, and here's why that we really haven't mastered the art of accountability. I'm not talking about this church in particular, but really in the churches across the United States as a whole. All right, number one is we try to hold people accountable before we first hold ourselves accountable. Okay? I have been guilty of this before, trying to hold other people accountable before I hold myself accountable. Matthew 7, 3-5 says, and thank you, Noah, for reading that, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but you don't notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." You see here, Jesus knows that we like to judge others, and we like to point out and look at other people's flaws before we first analyze ourselves. That's a problem that we have. And I don't think we can hold each other accountable until we first start holding ourselves accountable. Man in the mirror. Man in the mirror. Number two, instead of going and talking to that person about their fault, we talk to everyone else about their fault first. That's another problem that we have, and why we haven't mastered the art of accountability in church is because we like to do this about other people's faults. All right? And if I know if Frankie's got something going on that he's not doing, "Hey, Philip, did you hear what Frankie did? Did you?" Instead of, "Frankie, you did this and this. I think that you need to change your ways." We talk to everyone else about their fault first before we go to that person. And then the third thing, that the reason we haven't mastered the art of accountability is we just simply don't want to make anyone mad or upset. I've been guilty of this too. I'm a people pleaser. Okay, I'm be honest with you. I'm kind of a kiss up sometimes. Is anybody in here kiss up? Who's a kiss up in here? Yeah, you know who you are. You know you're a kiss up. And they call me, I don't kiss up, but I try to be friendly, okay? I don't want to make anybody mad or upset or not like me, okay? But this is the problem with holding people accountable, is we're so scared to make people mad or upset that we don't do it. Now, you should never go to someone with the intent in your heart to make them mad or upset at you, all right? That's not what it is. You're not trying to go make them mad at you. But part of holding someone accountable is risking making them mad. That is part of this. I'm sorry, but that is part of accountability, is risking making someone mad. You're not trying to, but that's always on the table when you hold people accountable. But let me tell you something. Truly loving someone, when you truly love someone, it's not pretending that everything's okay. Truly loving someone is going to them and telling them the truth. I don't want to see a bunch of people that say they love me, and on Judgment Day, when I'm about to be cast into the fire, where were y'all at? Why didn't you tell me? Is that loving? To not tell someone the truth just to avoid not making them mad here on earth. We've got to be able to be okay with going to people even if the consequence is making them mad or upset. Truly loving someone is telling them the truth. Now, Galatians chapter 6 in verse 1, Paul specifies this. God specifies this. He says, but you do it in a spirit of gentleness. You don't go to someone and, Will, you are just a trashy Auburn fan and you are All right, that's not how you do it. You got to do it in a spirit of gentleness. A spirit of gentleness. We got to start holding people accountable. It's a scary thing when a church doesn't hold each other accountable. All right, number 3. It's scary when a church's young people fall away after graduation. It's scary when a church's young people fall away after graduation. The big question is why? I mean, you can go to all these seminars and all these youth conferences and all these adult conferences and gospel meetings and lessons, and everybody is asking this question, why? And some people want to blame it on this, and some people want to blame it on that, and blame it, the culture, society. Why? The question is why? I remember when I was a little boy, okay? I was a pretty good kid. I've already mentioned this. I didn't like to disobey. I didn't like to get my parents mad at me. I just like to play outside by myself, play sports outside by myself, and mind my own business. But I did have a few vices, okay? And one vice that I had was my dad's biggest pet peeve growing up, okay? And how many of y'all have kids that do this? They go outside and play in only their socks. Anybody in here? Y'all got some good kids. All right. I would go outside and play just in my socks, and my dad did not allow me to do that because it would wear holes in the socks because I'd play on the asphalt, I'd get holes in my socks, or I'd get them dirty. He said, Cade, you can go outside barefoot. I don't care if you go barefoot. I don't care if you go outside in your tennis shoes, but you are not going to go outside in only your socks. I'm tired of buying socks. You're not going to do it. Well, lo and behold, the day comes where I have a spend the night party, and my buddy comes over and is hanging out with me, and we're playing video games inside, and we decide, hey, let's go play baseball outside. And so we get the bats and the gloves, and we run outside before even thinking. And after I was playing and hitting the ball, my dad came outside, and I felt the tension. I looked over at him, and he was looking down, and I looked down at my socks, and I looked up at him, and my eyes got real big. And the next thing I know, I was getting a whooping of a lifetime. You may not think that's a big deal, but he meant business. Socks, man, he could be doing a lot of other stuff. He's 9 years old, man. He could be, selling drugs. I don't know. Socks? Well, let's fast forward 10 years later. Annabeth and I, we live in an apartment. Lord willing, we're going to move into a house pretty soon. We live in an apartment, and we're on the second floor. And the bad thing about living in an apartment, especially on the second floor, right, is you got to take your trash down to the end of the road where the dumpster's at. Okay, so you don't have just this city can that you just dump it in. You got to walk it all the way to the dumpster. And so I know we got 2 or 3 bags piled on the porch at times. And so I'm like, I got to take these because Annabeth asked me to take these. And so, it's late. It's 10 o'clock at night one night, and I get the bags and I throw them over my shoulder, and I'm walking down the steps, and I'm sleepy, and and then all of a sudden I kind of like have a little panic attack, like I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? It's like this feeling I have, and I look down, and I only have socks on. I had this overwhelming fear or this overwhelming sensation that had been ingrained in me from when I was a young kid. And then I looked down and I said, I buy my own socks. He's not here. I can do whatever I want. And I just went to the garbage. Why did I have that feeling? It's because my dad ingrained it in me. And he said, you are not going to do this. Why do we have so many young people leaving the church after high school? It's because I don't know if we're ingraining the importance of God into them. Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Let me ask you a question. If my dad had come home and he saw that I was disobeying him, if he came home and he saw, or he opened that door and he saw that I was disobeying him, and he said, hey son, when you get the chance, go put some shoes on. Or maybe he said, son, this time you can wear your socks outside. But next time I really want you to wear your shoes or go barefoot. Or maybe he said, or maybe he just saw me with my socks on and just decided to ignore it. Whatever. Not a big deal. Would that have been ingrained inside of me? Would I have had that response? Let me tell you this, in the same way, when you tell your children that they need to go to church, they need to be active in the youth group, but then you let them skip for homework or because they're tired, what message are you sending? What message are you sending when you let them skip church for ball games and school events and lake days and oh, it's Sunday night. We just don't feel, we've already been there. We don't feel like driving back up to the church for Sunday night service. What message are you sending? Or I get off work at 5:30 on Wednesday nights. It's cutting it close. Church starts at 6:30. You know what? We'll just skip out on this one. What message are you sending? You're sending the message to your kids that it's just not that important. And that's why so many kids are leaving the Lord's church after graduation. It's a scary thing when young people, vital members of the Lord's church, are falling away after graduation. We have to make God our number one priority. And if you do that, I think we will have a retention of people staying in church. Now, we have a great church here at North Highlands, a family atmosphere, a lot of youth, a lot of middle age, and a lot of old people. We have a great congregation here. But in the Lord's church, across the country, and even local, He's creating a lot of scary scenarios. We must be on guard to maintain consistency of character, accountability to each other, and youth priority in the Lord's church. And if we do that, I think we can avoid these dangerous, scary scenarios that the devil has created. Now, we offer an invitation here at North Highlands for you to come forward if you want to make a public confession, or if you have something on your heart and you want this family, our family, to pray with you about, or maybe it's the case that you've heard something or you've studied in the previous weeks and you want to start your walk with Christ today and you want to take on Him in baptism, and we'll do that immediately. Whatever it is you need this morning, please come as we stand and as we sing.
Hello, my name's Philip Goad, and I'm privileged to serve as the minister here at North Highlands Church of Christ. You may have heard something in today's message that has you asking some questions, wanting to know more about the Bible, about what God has included in His Word. And if that's the case, if you'll reach out to us, we'd be happy to get you a Bible if you need one, and we'd be happy to set up a time to study with you in whatever way works best for you. We'd also invite you to come out and worship with us in person. On Sunday mornings, we gather for worship at 9:30 a.m., and that's followed by a time of Bible classes for all ages. We come back on Sunday evening at 6 o'clock for another time of Bible study. Again, classes available for all ages. And then on Wednesdays at 6:30 in the evening, we gather for a time of Bible study and fellowship and prayer. And so we'd invite you to come out and connect with us in person if you're able to do so. We also have a food bank that's open the third Saturday of each month from 9 to 10 a.m. It's a way that we serve our community and our county. And so if you know of someone who would benefit from our food bank, please let them know. Again, thank you for watching today. And if we can connect with you, if we can answer questions, we'd love to do so.